another edition of Wildcat Watch Live. I'm Anthony DePadua.
I'm Jessica Pizzara. I'm Jessica Murphy.
And I'm Hunter Murphy.
Tonight is October 24th. As you can see, we're once again filming from the wonderful Jake Nevin Fieldhouse.
So guys, did you hear the big news between Villanova and WIP 610?
Yeah, they're going to be broadcasting on men's basketball and football games this season.
Wow, that's awesome. Now everyone gets to hear Coach Talley and Jay Wright's post-game talk shows.
And don't forget, everyone will be able to keep up with Villanova's football and basketball. And speaking of football, here's Hunter with last week's details on the game.
Villanova football notched a huge win over Georgia State this past weekend with a 49-24 victory. The game was marked by many highlights, including sophomore Poppy Liver's punt return for a touchdown, which hasn't been done by Wildcat since 1980. Sophomore Kevin Manungai recorded 130 yards for the day, claiming his fourth 100-yard game of the season, while redshirt freshman John Robertson threw for 96 yards and 1 TD, and ran for 87 yards and 1 TD as well. The Wildcat defense was equally effective, as it forced 2 interceptions, with one being returned for a touchdown. The win puts Villanova in a tie with New Hampshire for first place in the conference. Great job, boys. Villanova's men's tennis had a very productive week over break. Junior Thomas O'Brien, freshman Chris Seitz, and sophomore Tim Abrasciamento competed in the ITA Atlantic Regional Championship last weekend, hosted at the University of Virginia. O'Brien and Seitz were each automatic qualifiers for the main singles draw in the tournament, while Abrasciamento competed in qualifying rounds. Although O'Brien and Seitz would unfortunately go on to lose their respective matches, Abrasciamento advanced to the second round by defeating Eric Ward of Morgan State, but sadly was subsequently beaten by Tommy Gates of St. Joseph's with a close 6-4, 7-6 match. This tournament concluded the season for Villanova with a combined singles record of 71-36 through 5 tournaments. Now on to Jess with men and women's soccer.
Thanks, Hunter. This past week, the men's soccer team started off strong with a 1-0 win over the University of Cincinnati. Sophomore Oscar Umar scored off a pass from senior Kyle Soroka late in the first half, sealing the Wildcats' victory. However, just days later, the Wildcats fell to the Syracuse Orange here at Villanova 2-0. Although the Wildcats produced 8 shots in the first half alone, they could not find the back of the net. They held off Syracuse until late in the game, conceding goals in the 67th and 88th minute. Looking to rebound from the loss, the Wildcats hit the road for a matchup against the Louisville Cardinals. The Wildcats lost to Louisville 1-0 due to a penalty kick late in the first half. Unfortunately, it was the game-deciding goal, despite the huge defensive effort made by the back line, as senior goalie John Fogarty finished with 7 saves. The team now sits 10-4-2 overall as the regular season winds down. On the girls' side, Villanova tied in double overtime in an exciting match against DePaul. The teams battled it out over 120 minutes, yet no goals were scored. The Wildcats outshot the Blue Demons 19-10. However, the Wildcats gained an important point in the Big East Championship, leaving them with 13 points and a third-place slot in the division. 2 days later, the Wildcats traveled to the University of Notre Dame, where they unfortunately lost 1-0. The Fighting Irish scored early, and sadly the Wildcats could not find the net to tie the game. Yet, Villanova made a quick turnaround, as this past Friday, our Cats defeated number 11 Georgetown 1-0 in their final game of the regular season. Freshman Emily Damstrom scored in the 28th minute off a perfect pass from senior Heidi Sabatura. This marks Villanova's first win over the Hoyas since 2007. The Wildcats are now 7-8-3 overall as they start their run in the Big East Championship this Thursday. Now let's send it over to Anthony.
Thanks, Jess. Nothing defines a team more than how they respond to adversity. And for our Villanova women's volleyball team, this is the situation they are faced with now after a rough 3-game stretch this last week. Starting this past Wednesday, our Cats headed to Newark, Delaware for their final non-conference match of the regular season against the Delaware Blue Hens. Although each set was fought to the final point, Villanova would be on the losing end of a sweep, as Delaware nabbed a 3-0 victory. Trying to move on from this loss, our Cats headed back home to the Nova Nation to begin a 4-game homestand, starting off with the Blue Demons of DePaul. Unfortunately, Villanova could not exercise these demons, as DePaul would go on to defeat Nova, winning matches 3-1. Junior Mariah Henley made her mark in the game, though, as she tied a career high with 34 digs and also surpassed 1,000 career digs during the first set. Way to go, Mariah. Trying to avoid a 3-game losing sweep, our Cats then faced Notre Dame in a Sunday slugfest. Sadly, it would be the Fighting Irish leaving with the victory as they claimed the day with 3-1. Although victory eluded our Cats this week, strong defensive play from Villanova suggests that our Cats have a quick turnaround. Now, for the latest in rowing and field hockey, here's Jess P.
While the rest of us were late for break, field hockey was busy fighting on the field. On Saturday, October 13th, our Cats just barely lost to Providence with a score of 1-0. Looking to erase the memory of defeat, our Wildcats hit the road and took on St. Louis in an away matchup this past Sunday. At the half, the score was tied at 0, but St. Louis took the lead in the second and eventually claimed a 3-1 victory. These two losses put the field hockey team at 6-11 overall and 1-4 in the Big East. The women's rowing team kicked off their season this past weekend at the 48th annual Head of the Charles Regatta in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The Wildcats featured a women's club eights and a women's championship eights boat in the world-renowned race on the Charles River. In Saturday's race, the club eights boats crossed the finish line in 18 minutes 41.12 seconds, placing them 18 out of 34 competitors. While Sunday afternoon, the women's championship eights got their chance to race and finished 35th out of 40 boats with a time of 19 minutes 10.42 seconds. Nice job, girls. Now here's Brendan with upcoming news.
Thanks, Jess. Well, Nova Nation, as many of you may know, this upcoming weekend is homecoming weekend. It also is the start to basketball season, Friday night at 6 o'clock, where it begins with Hoops Mania. Also on Friday, though, the men's and women's cross-country teams will be in the Bronx, New York, taking part in the Big East Invitational. On Saturday, our football team is back in action with a home game against Towson beginning at 3:30, while our men's soccer team will host Pitt at 12 o'clock. On Sunday, also, our women's soccer team will play down in D.C. against the Georgetown Hoyas. Now, with the football team on a bit of a run right now, hosting Towson for homecoming weekend, I think, is a great opportunity for them to make a push towards the playoffs. After dropping 49 points last week against Georgia State, I see the Villanova Wildcats coming up on top in this one by a final score of 28-7. We're led by John Robertson and the rest of the running game. Villanova will make a push and head towards the playoffs with a winning record for the remainder of the season. That's all for the upcoming games. Enjoy your homecoming weekend and Hoops Mania. Back to you guys.
Well, for myself, Jess, and Hunter, as always, stay wild.